I got an interesting question. I don't think it's ever been addressed on the show, which is good. But the question is, how long does it usually take to resolve a slip and fall case? Slip and fall cases are kind of unique because there's issues of liability. Normally in a car accident case, I'm going to switch gears on you here and talk about how it happened. Let's say you're sitting at a red light and you get rear-ended. There's really no issue of liability there because the guy who rear-ended you is usually 100% at fault for the accident. That's we're talking liability. When you're talking about a slip and fall, the facts are never the same. They're different because you never have two scenarios that the law can rely on that are exactly the same. I could be walking outside one night and it's 30 degrees outside and there's ice. The next night it's 32 and it's just wet. Then, one time scenario happens with a man who's 65. Next scenario is a woman who's 18. Different types of shoes come into effect. So many issues, different lighting. I mean, we get into some bizarre factual scenarios when it comes to a slip and fall case. It's not the classic, the grape falls at the supermarket and up somebody slips on it. There are issues in a slip and fall when somebody gets hurt at a supermarket or in any type of retail store as to what time of maintenance was done. I mean, I've had some bizarre factual scenarios where, a person's standing there shopping and somebody swings out the back doors and gets run over by a forklift at a supermarket. I've had the grapes fall. I've had the scenario where there was grape juice on the floor and it looked like it had been there for 30 or 40 minutes. So you get into those factual scenarios. That's usually the hardest part. There's not going to be a doubt that you were injured as a result of the slip and fall. You got to remember, in any negligence case, you've got four issues. Number one, is there a duty? Obviously, there's going to be a duty to keep any type of retail establishment open. And I'm just going to say retail establishment. I just want to keep it simple. Let's talk about the supermarket. They have a duty to keep the aisles clear of debris as well as keep the floors clean and dry to make it as safe a shopping experience for the consumer as possible. If they breach their duty, let's say there's a spill on aisle 4 and nobody goes and cleans it up. Now this I've seen happen. I was at a store one night and I noticed a giant puddle on the floor and I just stood there and watched for about 5 minutes. I saw 3 different employees walk by there and do nothing about the spill. And finally, I went and got the manager and said, hey, I saw 3 of your employees walk by this spill and not one of them got a cone, not one of them got a mop, and not one of them got anything to protect your consumers. I think you need to do something about this. Yet, while I was waiting there for 5 minutes, I can't tell you how many people, be careful, there's a spill on the floor. So I wasn't going to let somebody get hurt, but at the same point in time, I wanted to see how the operation happened. Now, some people may say that's crazy. You should immediately have gone and told them. Well, folks, I never would have let anybody get hurt. So number one. Number two, I was doing it for my own edification because I wanted to see how the response rate was. Because when you sue a company and you say, what was your response to the spill? Oh my God, you would think that they have every eye in the sky and every person on the floor looking for debris on the floor. That's not true, but that's what you're going to get when you sue one of these companies. Oh my gosh, we have this and this and this and this. Well, how'd the spill get there? And then I got a witness who says, yeah, I was shopping at that aisle. I was trying on dresses and that spill was there the whole time. So obviously there's a disconnect, but you're going to get that response because they don't want to be held responsible for leaving a spill on the floor or a slip and fall accident. So yeah, these are what you're talking about here, and what I'm trying to get at is these are some of the most contested issues in liability. So could it take a long time? Yeah. But again, it's all going to come down to liability issues and of course your damages. What kind of damages do you have? I mean, maybe the length of the case has to do with the fact that you're in rehab for 6 months. Well, you can't really settle your case until you know the full extent of your damages. I mean, if you've missed 4 months of work and you're still getting medical treatment, then no, your case is not going to settle right away. Not going to happen at all. And maybe you don't want it to settle. Maybe you're going to have to file a lawsuit and continue out that way. But because of the liability issues, a lot of slip and fall cases are going to have to go to a lawsuit. And those issues are going to have to be ferreted out, or whatever you want to call it. Ferreted out. That sounds about right. To try to determine whether or not there was responsibility on behalf of the establishment where you fell, or on behalf of the sidewalk, or on behalf of the park, or on behalf of the abandoned house where somebody gets hurt. So that was a great question, and I appreciate it, and hopefully you'll understand a little bit more about how a personal injury case works in that regard.